Hello everyone, welcome back to the shop. It's a rainy night here in Ohio, and we are going to make a nail header. This video is for, I believe his name is Graham Pepper. He had asked about, on one of my other videos, if I could take and do a demonstration on how to make a nail header. This is the way that I would go about making a nail header. So I hope everybody would enjoy it. Keep in mind this isn't something that I do very often. I don't have much call for nails, but this is my approach that I would go for. So thanks for the great comment, Graham, and hopefully you find this video entertaining at least. Okay everyone, so we are going to make a very simple nail header. Couple things to point out about a nail header is the way that a nail header is designed. A lot of nail headers you see are designed very simply out of one piece of material with a handle drawn out in some fashion or another, and a little squirrely deal put on the end, to hang it up. And then you usually have either 1, 2, or 3 different square holes in it of different sizes for some different size nail options. So that's your standard basic nail header. That's what we're going to be doing today. We're going to be doing this out of a piece of leaf spring off of a trailer. But one thing I'd like to take and point out about a nail header is how a nail header is supposed to actually look, so you understand the function of it. So, if you were to take and look at your nail header on the side, maybe this doesn't particularly, this won't be completely flat here. This is actually more of a concave here. So if you just picture it, it's going to look like that. This is going to be the top of the nail header where the nail gets formed, and this will be the underside, which will go over the pritchel hole of the anvil. When you punch this material, you're going to punch it from the back first. And what that's going to do is that's going to leave you a cavity in here that looks like a cone. An upside down cone. And that's what we're wanting. Because what you want is when you form the head of your nail, you want the shank of the nail to be able to be free in that cone. What that allows is it allows you to tap out that nail in the reverse to take and get that nail out after you form the head. This is a little more difficult to do if you do 3 or 4 different sizes all on one plate. But it is imperative that you make this cavity in here larger at the bottom where the tip of the nail will be, and smaller at the top where the head of the nail is going to be. If you don't do it that way, what you will have happen to you, say this is your nail header, and you just had square walls in there, I'm drawing this bigger now, and you plopped a nail down in there, and you're forging on it, what can happen is this in here can upset and force out onto the side walls of the nail header, and then you've practically riveted it in place. And when you go to beat it back out, if it's stuck at all here, you're definitely riveting it in place. And this makes it very difficult, obviously, to get the nail out, and then you ruin the nail header, or you have to punch that piece out, shear the head off, and go again with it. So it's always good to make sure that when you make your nail header, the cutaway, you punch from the back side first, and then the top side you'll back punch a little bit, and then you'll go back through the back again to finish out the hole. So this is nice and square at the top. Like I said, this allows for that nail to hang freely in the tool and for you to drive your head on it. So now that we understand how it's supposed to be made, we'll go on to Graham's question, which he was having trouble with the transition here to the handle. And hopefully that's all in shot. Yep, it's all in shot. So there's a lot of ways, and I believe he said he is working with 3/8 inch thick. That'll be the thickness of the material by, I want to say it was 1.25 inch wide material. That's pretty thick material, and that can get quite laborsome to try to take and draw out a handle by hand out of that material. So there's a couple options that we can do there. One option that I would suggest if you are working on a longer piece, like we'll be working on today, is that you actually leave it on the bar. He said he was working on a piece that was only 8 inches long. I don't know if that's everything, but I would say leave it on the bar and set this much on the horn of your anvil, and then hammer down with a hammer in that area to neck that down and create those shoulders more economically, and then cut it off and finish drawing out your handle. That's what I'm going to do today to take and draw that down. But let's say you do have that piece, you know, and this is a square piece, and we're trying to accomplish that neck down. So here we got this rectangular piece. It's 8 inches long, but we want to take and maybe make a neck down, maybe halfway up. When you're first getting started, if you don't have the hammer control to pull down a double-sided shoulder on the anvil, my suggestion is to cheat. And you say, Roy, what do you mean by that? Well, let me explain. This is going to be a little interesting to some, but hopefully this will help. If you guys are watching this far and haven't sped up yet, you're about to get on into a juicy little nugget that Roy's going to teach you that you probably won't learn anywhere else. When I mean cheat, I mean set your material over the far edge of the anvil. We'll make this the far edge of the anvil. Okay? And what I'll do is I'll go ahead and show you, or the far edge of the horn, or whatever. I'll show you this method and how you can cheat at this. So, getting excited. Set your material over the far edge of the anvil. And what you want to do is you want to hammer down. Wipe that off there. And make this like you're hammering it down. The material until it follows around there with half on, half off blows. Okay? So that means your blows are going to come on right here. Okay? As you can tell, that's only set down one shoulder. You say, okay, well that's not much of a cheat, Roy. You're just going to use one shoulder. No, we're going to turn that into 2 shoulders. Here's how we're going to do it. This is going to get exciting to you here. Okay? So, since you've used half on, half off blows to set down this shoulder into the anvil, we are going to flip this a full 180 degrees. So I'll redraw that. So we're going to have our anvil shoulder, right? We're going to have our piece now, and it's going to have a kind of a shoulder right in here, you know, and it's just going to be pretty much right out here, right? So this is what we got now. Remember, this is the anvil. Anvil. Okay? Now what do you think we're going to do? Well, we're going to do a real interesting thing. We are going to use half on, half off blows again, okay, with your hammer. And we're going to drive through this center line here, and we are going to create our second shoulder. And what this is going to do is this is going to push this material, and you're going to have to watch this area right here that you don't get a cold shut. But you can actually shove this shoulder over to this edge and while creating this shoulder. So it's an interesting, neat little trick. I'm going to show you that with this leaf spring at my anvil. I'll show you it in real time. It is a very neat and it's a very easy way of creating a double shoulder in the right places that you want it. And I hope this helps you, Graham. And if you got any questions, obviously you can leave it in the comment section. And I hope this will help guys that are struggling with trying to get those double shoulders. This is perfectly fine to do in ornamental work or in certain tooling applications where maybe the tool steel's not too high. I would not recommend this for knife tangs. Reason for that being is what you're doing here is essentially a shear plane. So anytime you put something in a shear plane, you are creating stress in a potential area that could end up breaking off at some point along that grain structure at the shear plane, and you definitely don't want that in a knife blade or something like that. But considering this is a tool, and that's not going to matter too much because all we're doing is making nails out of it and it's a low impact area, we can get away with doing this method. So we'll go over the anvil, I'll get my piece hot, and we'll get going. Alright, we've got our leaf spring good and hot. We're going to go ahead and do, as I said, this is going to be the first set down. Now if you're working with coil spring, or, well, leaf spring I should say, or any sort of spring type steel, you should have normalized this a few times, went through a few normalization cycles, or annealing cycles, just to double check it and make sure that you're relieving whatever stresses were built up in there. So we're going to come over here. Now this is a sharp edge of my anvil. I don't believe in dressing or radiusing edges of anvils. I'll get into that in another video. But this is just meant to be a real quick video. We're going to start about right in here. Hopefully this is on camera. We'll see. Let's see. I'll put the hammer right about where I'm going to be. Make sure that's good enough and then focus. Like I said, we're going to come out. We're going to do some half on, half off blows. But we're only going to take this so far. We're not going to go too far with it. We're just wanting to start them shoulders. So we're going to do step one here. I'm going to set on about 2 inches or so. Set off about 2 inches, about a cube of material. Half on, half off blows. As you do this, you're going to try to hold in tight to that shoulder. Okay? Now we're going to take another heat on this because I don't believe in working spring steel very cold at all. It's just not very good. Let's pop that scale off. Let's see here. Make sure we're all in shot. Yeah, you guys can see that. So there's our first shoulder. Next heat, we're going to come out where we started this first shoulder, and we're going to just set that just above there, and we're going to hammer down with half on, half off blows. And then what this will do is this will set this material here down and create that second shoulder for us. So I'll show you how that's done. Get another heat here. Hopefully you all have been enjoying this content I've been putting out here lately. Keep this anvil nice and clean. Yeah, so I'll bring this back up to heat. Working with spring steel, it heats pretty darn quickly, so you know it doesn't take too long. That's why I'm just going to let this run for a little bit, let the run time run a little bit. Sorry for you guys that are speedy McGee's and want to get out of here. You can just skip ahead. That's what they make fast forward buttons for. For everybody else, we're going to learn how this is done. Get this up to heat. I like my old hand crank forge. My wife got me for at a garage sale. Oh, I don't know, it's been 9 coming up on 10 years ago. Alright. So now I'm going to place it on about the same thing, cubic material. I'm going to use half on, half off blows. And now that's going to create this other shoulder. And now you have something you can work to. And you can always clean this shoulder up. Like I'm doing here. You always clean up the bottom shoulder. Now that's getting too cold. I'm going to stop hitting that. As you can see, we've started 2 shoulders now. The reason they're a little goofy is I didn't have them quite in line. If they were right in line, like say there, they would have been perfect. But they're not. So what we're going to do is, it doesn't really much matter. What I'm trying to do, instead of this being square, I'm trying to make this round anyhow. At least that's my story and I'm sticking to it. So we can push them shoulders around a little bit, won't hurt anything. Once you get the head of this thing shaped the way you want it, that's when you want to go in and, you know, draw out the handle where you want it to be. And then I suggest always drawing out that handle as long as you like it first, and then go ahead and getting into punching it. Alrighty, here's the next heat. We're going to get going here. I got it up to temperature, nice and hot, malleable. We'll start radiusing that off a little bit. I'm not going to worry about it too much just yet. See, every now and then you miss a blow. That happens. So I'm doing 2 things with this right now. I'm adjusting them shoulders where I want them, and I'm thickening the bar stock into this round, this radius. Now, no one said a cheating method is the best method. So I don't want you to take this into consideration as a better method than learning good forging technique. This is to get you by. Kind of like a beginner's fake it till you make it sort of thing. I've had to do that more than once in my blacksmithing career. And it's panned out. You want to learn to be able to get good, proper hand techniques, to be able to forge both sets of shoulders at the same time. It just saves a lot of time and efficiency. So here, yeah, you guys see part of the horn too. I might back that up here in just a second. I'm going to refine this end a little more, and then I'm going to start forging down the handle section a little bit. So I like working the steel nice and hot. You've got a lot of movement you've got to do, so you need to get a good amount of heat into something like this. You want to bring it up nice and malleable. That's what I'm going to start calling it, nice and malleable, instead of nice and hot. Hot means completely different things to different people. So, to me it means malleable. So, bring it out, nice and hot. Yeah, keep working that radius around a little bit. interest, it's about like 9:30 at night that I'm doing this right now. But Graham, I hope you're enjoying this. Making me work OT, buddy. You see that thing doesn't like to move when you get down that cold, so there. Yep, so you can see that. So that's nice and rounded up. Right now we're going to finish it out at that for right now. Next heat we're going to come to the horn, and I'm going to draw the work down a little bit. So I'll go ahead and clip out, come back to you when I start that. Okay guys, got guys and gals, excuse me on that. We've got this next heat on here. I think it's good and hot. So we got the heat where we need it to be. We're going to use our 2 1/4 pound hammer. Proper stance. And the hammer technique. I'm going to reduce the size of that stock. Dress that up. And we just continue this right as you go, right as you like. So, work the steel hot. Do not work cold steel. This is why I say that there is no value in one heat forging. I'll keep reiterating that until the day I'm dead. There is no value in forging something in just one heat. When the metal dips below an orange temperature, it's cold. It's moving less. If it's moving less, you're not getting as much work done for the same amount of time that it could have been reheated to a much more pliable temperature. Do not work cold metal. It is bad for the steel, and it is bad for the smith. Get everything to as high a possible temperature as you can when you're forging. There are certain items, certain rare metals, you knife makers out there love to play around with, that you can't get as hot as you would like because it changes certain properties in them and things like that. Well, blacksmiths have worked simple metals for eons. When you work with simple metals, the rule is get it hot, hit it hard. It's cold enough to stop hitting it. See if I can't balance that on the anvil there for a sec. So as you can see, guys, it just takes work. It takes a little bit of time. So if you didn't want this square of a shouldering, which actually I would suggest. I just wanted to show that method. The better method would be to squeeze out the material and use this soft radius instead. Some guys like to see sharp shoulders. I go either way, I don't really care. I'd rather see a nice radius shoulder myself by using the horn of the anvil to clean up that radius and then just cut it off. It makes it a little easier when you're drawing stuff out too. You're not having to reverse draw. But since we got this mainly done like this, what we're going to do is we're going to focus our attention a little more in this area, get that lump cleaned out of it, and then I'm going to cut it off and we'll finish drawing out the handle. Because we don't need all this material. Not at all. And we'll probably cut it off somewhere right in here and draw all this out into the handle we need. So I'll clip out and we'll get at it. Okay everyone, I went ahead and cleaned up that shoulder there a little bit off camera just to save some time on this video. It's already getting fairly long. And now all I'm trying to do is to take and clean up this ball area. Just make it look a little more presentable for you guys. You know, for you guys that care how my work looks here. You can't have this stuff look ugly. Once we get this nice and radiused out here, I'll continue my forging. Now, we're getting down into this lower heating. And that's good enough to be stop hitting it. We'll take another heat on this and get that radiused up a little better. So it's coming close. Working with high carbon steel, you have to take a little more heats on it. Be a little more ginger with it. A little more careful, if you will. You know, actually I don't even know where that saying gingerly came from. I don't know if that's a derogative thing or not. Drop me a comment in the comment sections if you know. Don't want to be hateful to the redheads out there. I love you guys. Oh, or gals, or whatever. Don't want to be offensive. Well, I don't really care too much about being offensive. I just, you know, I like to get along with everybody I can. I say what I mean, and I mean what I say, I guess. Half the time. Anyways, we'll get that nice and hot. And we'll come back right back in. Hopefully this is in shot, guys. That edge there, yeah, you guys are watching pretty good. We'll come back in with it here. And round out that ball just a little bit more on the end. And then we'll be ready to grip a hold of it. Cut off, well, pretty much cut off our rings and draw that out, or the handle, if you will. It must be getting late. Starting to slur my words. Get this nice and hot here. We're about there. Again, like I said, spring steel heats up quickly. I know you're watching a lot of dead airspace. Can't make the metal get any hotter any quicker. Alright, here we are. So we'll look at this here. Just going to round that out a little bit better. Alright. You know what? That's round enough. It's meant to be a tool, not a work of art. So, knock that little square off that corner. See, when you get me doing stuff like this, I get a little fanatical about how my work looks. So, good enough. Good enough. We're going to stop hitting it at that. So, okay. So you might be asking yourself at this point, Roy, aren't you forgetting something? Why wouldn't you want to punch this while this is on the bar? Well, let me answer that. You don't want to distort this hole after you make it. You want to punch it, drift it to the correct size for the nail that you want to make, and then leave it be. So that's the theory on that. You do not want to take and punch this, okay? You don't want to take and punch this and then be jacking around out here and squish or squash that hole weird, because then it becomes a bigger hole because you have to redrift it and things of that nature. It becomes a real big headache and hassle. We don't want that. So what we want to do is we're going to grab a hold of this now. We're going to heat this up here. We're going to go ahead and cut it off. And then we'll grab it from here and work out the reins, work out the rein a little more, or the handle a little more. So I'll go ahead and heat it up. Won't make you watch me cut it off. I'll just do that, and then I'll be back once we get this drawn out. And pretty much simple, over the horn, draw out your rein. I'll come back when it's time to punch this hole. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, real quick before we get started punching this hole, let you know this is now officially the second day. I ran out of time the first day to take and get the work done, so this is the second day. I'm not feeling quite up to par. I had a dentist appointment this morning, so this is again about 9 p.m. at night. I'm filming this, so bear with me here. Jaw's a little sore. I'm sure everybody can relate to that. So I've got this piece up to heat, but the thing I wanted to talk about, I let this thing cool down in the fire overnight, to just let it slowly die with the fire as kind of an annealing heat, to kind of just take out some of those stresses that I've been putting into it by all this heavy forging. I think that's important before you go on to this next step, which is punching the hole. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to do this in 2 heats, 2 separate operations. So this first operation, all I'm going to do is set it on the anvil, which side I like here. I'll find out about right where center needs to be for me. And take your time with this, because you want to take and get it right. You don't want to take and burn up the tip of your punch. So I did have to take and forge a new square punch here. Seeing I didn't have one. So keep bumping it. Take it a little at a time. So right now we're just kind of marking this out, laying this out a little bit. And that's about as far as we're going to go with it at this point. We're going to come back here in a second, and we'll just drive that on through. But the other thing I don't know if I had mentioned in the other video, I had mentioned that we wanted a slight dome to this. And then I also mentioned that we were probably going to drive back through this way to knock out the slug, and then back through this way. There is another option for that, and we may try it now and experiment this. To get that crown and everything at the same time, if you have a round hole in your anvil, which is your Pritchell hole, or if you have a piece of pipe or something like that that has a smooth edge, you can come right over here after you've set the punch all the way down to where you feel it resist you on the anvil surface. And then you come over here and just fully punch that slug clean out, shear it out. And what that'll do for you is 2 steps. Since you're hitting it down through here, what's most likely going to happen is it's going to want to crown this whole entire thing. It's going to want to dish it out as you drive and drift that hole to the final dimension through the back side. So that way you don't have to worry about going too far through the front side. So we'll go ahead and take we'll take another heat on this. This time, now that we've got it where we want it, we're going to take it all the way through, all the way down to the anvil face, and then we're going to punch it from the back side where we're already at, all the way through the Pritchell hole, and try to knock out that slug out the top. You may be asking yourself, well, what about the rag that's going to produce? Well, very simply, we're just going to hot rasp that off. You know, we're going to do that. When I worked with Peter Ross for a short period of time, taking a crab lock class at Tunnel Mill, learning how to make locks for chess. When I took a class with him, you know, he abstained using a hot rasp. And his theory behind it is, you know, if you know anything about Peter Ross, he was the head blacksmith for about 30 years at Colonial Williamsburg, here in the U.S. And it was historically seen as a waste of material to take and rasp something off, and it was seen as a poor, or it was seen as your inability as a smith to do good ironwork. So, but that's not here. I say it can be used on occasion just fine. Alright, so we got this nice and hot here. Bring it back out to the anvil. Set our tongs down here somewhere comfortable. Bring up our punch. As you can tell, I'm not rushing this whole thing. You don't have to. Unless you get your punch stuck, like I just did. But yeah, you can hear that hiss in there. That was just a little on the hotter side. I was trying to take it down in that one heat, and I should have pulled it out a little sooner. But hey, live and learn. This is a live demonstration here, guys. A lot of times I will come in, tap it once or twice, then pull it right back out. Make sure I'm not going too far. Okay, so hopefully you guys can see this. I'm going to come around to the camera. You can see that little flat spot that's been developed there. So I'm going to try to rotate this camera around. If you guys can just bear with me for a moment here. We're going to rotate that camera around. We're going to bring the angle up just so much. There we go. And we're going to refocus this dude. There, it's kind of splitting the difference. So you can see that little flat that's created. Well, your piece has to cool down enough in order for you to shear that plug out. And so this is cold enough that I should be able to come right through here and go ahead and punch it out. Just like so. I'll let it lay there. Use my punch on it here. Get it back in line, make sure it's over the hole. And give it a blow. So, and again. And again. And it's out. So, go ahead and cool your punch. Always make sure you keep your punches nice and cool. And I'll show you what we came out with. So, now that hole's out of there. So there's a slight crown to it. And that's ideally what we're wanting. So this way you can work down that the nail head around that crown. Now you can elaborate this crown a little bit by heating this back up, setting it over the hole and drifting it out a little more, and then hammering that down a little bit to kind of square it back out. And I think we're going to do that, try to make this crown a little bit better. So we'll go ahead and heat it up here for another time. And if there's any rag on it that we need to clean up, we can always use a hot rasp to rasp it. Or if you're luxurious enough to have a belt grinder, or a belt sander, go ahead and use that. It's a lot quicker. Well, sometimes a lot quicker. Hot rasping can be just as quick. Just depends on what you're at. So we're going to heat this up. I'm going to drive that punch through a little more to drift it open a little bigger, and then tap it back. If you want a smaller nail hole, start with a smaller punch. Larger nail hole, start with a larger square punch and drive it through. Pretty simple, not a whole lot to it. You just kind of have to use your brain and think about what size nail you're trying to make. And then sky's the limit, obviously. So I'll get this set up here, get my tool ready to go. Think I'm about there. Okay, we're hot enough. I'm going to come right here again. Bring this right over. Stick that on through. And take that out. So as you can see, it'll come into play how big you want this thing to be. So now we've got a little bit of a dome to it, a little bit of a crown. I'm going to take a bit of a hammer. We're just going to work down this material a little bit to straighten that out. So this way it lays flat on the anvil. And I'm just going to dress that little crown up just a little bit. Give it what we're wanting. There we go. Pretty simple, guys. But there's your nail header. So, hope you enjoyed this video. Hope you liked it. I'll put a finished photo of it. I believe laying on the workbench. And hopefully this helped you out, Graham. I greatly appreciate you subscribing to me, pal. And yeah, guys, let me know what you think in the comments section. I like reading all the comments. Sometimes I get to all of them, sometimes I don't. But I do greatly appreciate everybody's input that you've been putting in on my videos. So yeah, just you know, hit that thumbs up if you liked the video. Hit thumbs down if you didn't. I appreciate it either way. Thanks for the feedback. God bless you all and have a great evening.